Just before we get into the bulk of the video here today, guys, quick reminder, if you didn't catch it earlier on, I did do a big upload. There's going to be a huge PvP tournament with $2,000 prize pool, the biggest PvP tournament we've had in years, and I'm going to be hosting it and streaming it, giving away an eternity directly to you guys, the viewers, for free, in addition to tons of gold, Black Lion skins, and whatnot. It's happening extremely soon. Pause this video, check the link at the top of the description. I've made another video. It's a quick little presentation. Please do check that out and then come back to this one once you know that that's going on. The more that are there, the merrier, and hey, you might just walk away with an eternity. Alright, welcome guys. Big news over on the ArenaNet site just these past couple of days. I say big news, they really didn't give us too much information, but there is word of what you can see in the title there. It is indeed an underwater skill overhaul coming. This is fascinating to me because it's something that people frequently ask for, but I would never put that high on my to-do list if I were them. It's like one of those luxuries, one of those nice things. It's like, yeah, it'd be nice if they went back and did underwater, but I'd rather they do A, B, and C, so it's unlikely they'll ever go to do it. And yet, here we are, 2018, they're really spending the time to do all these little updates. You know, Mesmer had that huge revamp with the last balance pass, and it seems like the devs have got, quite wide eyes when it comes to the different things that they're willing to improve on. It feels like the balance team is almost a completely different balance team to what we've experienced in the game so far. Not only did they announce this underwater overhaul, which is going to be the meat of today's video, but there's a Deadeye overhaul coming as well, changing a huge amount of how that specialization works. I'll talk about that separately. But so yeah, I did want to sit down, talk a bit about this. Though they've announced the existence of the overhaul coming, as we walk towards these waters here, and we show some stuff off, they haven't given us many details. So let's talk about it. First, on the main site, you can see here, they say coming soon, changes to underwater skills, get your sea legs land lubbers. So, little piratey stuff reference there probably doesn't mean anything. And then we get into the post itself. Just these two small sentences or paragraphs here. The image is of this happy little quaggan. Funnily enough, if you do, snoop on the image, you'll see the image is called Quaggan from Lost Shores or something. This is a Lost Shores Quaggan. This is a Season 1 Quaggan, guys, right here, publicly in our faces. Oh, that's not the first time we've seen Live in World referenced on the main website, is it? Season 1. The conspiracy theories are growing, guys. Remember? Because they did that other post called The Gathering Storm, which was a Living World Season 1 update. I don't know. The theory grows. Current number of members in the club that believe that these are hints that Season 1 is coming back. Well, just me. But it could be, guys. Alright, so yeah, being serious, this is what they say. The next Guild Wars 2 balance update arrives on the 8th of May, bringing a sea change to underwater combat. We're enhancing underwater skills and utilities so you can blast the barnacles off anything that tries to nibble your toes while you're swimming. Keep a lookout. On the morning of the May 8th balance update, we'll publish a developer blog post that wades through all the details. They do love their puns and wordplay, don't they? So, a few things. This is confirmation that the next big balance patch for Guild Wars 2 is going to be May 8th. That is not very long away at this point. It was suspected that that was going to be the next balance patch, and it is. I mean, we had that dedicated competitive one very recently. I'll have to bring Boots back on that day, and they'll go through everything in a lot more detail, I suppose. But that doesn't mean we can't make some pretty healthy observations and guesses as to what exactly they're going to do. So, first I want to talk kind of broadly. Why are ArenaNet doing an underwater skill update? Like I said, it probably wouldn't be that high on their priority list, or I wouldn't think it should be. So what does this imply? Well, number one, everybody, it seems, on the internet in the face of this news is suggesting that means an underwater expansion is due. Guys, we're going to be out in the unending ocean. We're going to have an underwater expansion that takes us to Cantha, and then we'll have a Cantha expansion afterwards or whatever. Do I personally actually believe that just because a skill update is coming into the game, Guild Wars 2 will be geared to have such a thing as an underwater expansion? I actually think no. I really, really don't think such a thing would be successful in this game whatsoever, or in most games, really. If there ever was such a thing as an underwater expansion, it would be full to the brim with little islands like these that we can just sort of climb around on, and I seriously doubt you'd find more than 50% of the playable content ending up underwater. Just because the skill pass is coming through now, it doesn't mean that it's going to be able to sustain you for 20, 30, 40 hours plus repeatable end game at the end. I mean, come on, guys. I just don't see it. However, it's not all doom and gloom. There are some things we can maybe say. By the way, I don't think that this means we're going to jump into deep sea dragon lore and stuff, by the way. In terms of, like, living world, they could have this skill update in mind so that they can infuse more underwater content into upcoming living worlds. And, yes, future expansions at the same time as well, right? It might be that they're looking at adding for Living World Season 4 some more underwater-heavy zones. So let's talk about that for a second. All the main areas of speculation as to where we go in Season 4, funnily enough, don't seem very watery. So, like, you've got Corner. I'm sure we'll get a map in Corner at some point. I'm sure we'll get maybe even 2 maps in Corner. We might get a map around Gendara in Corner. We might, since we got a little bit of Dazhka, go a little bit deeper up into Dazhka, which would have this river, but I don't know. We might have a little bit to do with Dazlana. But none of that's really too underwatery. Another great idea people have had is, you know, this missing region south of Ebonhawk and north of the Desert Highlands. I believe there were some hints that some of the collision around the Ebonhawk Gate updated in a recent update, so if we get a map here. But, I mean, we had the updates in the Blood Legion homelands. But is there much underwater, really? Maybe in the Blood Legion homelands? Maybe with this, like, new lakey type area that we saw when the map expanded with Episode 1, Daybreak? Most of it's not underwatery. That said, there is one candidate, one very exciting place to be, and that's back on Istan. You guys might remember when we got the domain of Istan, when Daybreak came out, there were several name drops and references to the southern areas of the island, which right now we can't even scroll the whole way through. There were references to this place down here, this large section, which in Guild Wars 1 was the Mittani Keys and the Isna Isles. And I've got to tell you guys, Isna Isles is one of the places I have been most excited about returning to out of everywhere in all of Alona. I mean, yeah, I was excited to go back to the Desolation, and I've had my fill of that. I was excited to go back to Vabi. I'm excited for Connor. But of all places, this is so high on my list. This place in Guild Wars 1, if you guys don't know, is like a gorgeous, ultimate tropical paradise with crystal clear waters, white sand beaches everywhere. It would be an amazing contrast to the kind of gloomy, dreary, sand-swept isles that we just went to. And yeah, we have a lot of underwater here, so I wonder if this balance patch is coming in just in time to give us a lot of underwater content down here. That would be my guess, and I'm even more thrilled and excited about returning to that area of the game if indeed that is actually what they're going for. There are some other theories as well, by the way, more broad expansion ideas. Like, you might wonder, why are they looking at underwater content again? It could be that they're in development of the next expansion. Obviously, we know they will be, right? A team will be working on that. And it might be that they're looking at new mounts to add, and maybe they're looking for an underwater mount. So they want a good bedrock of skill balance for underwater content, and then they can plug a mount into that on the next expansion. That doesn't necessarily mean Deep Sea Dragon lore and a full-fledged expansion based around underwater, but it could mean something. Obviously, if Cantha is the next expansion, that would have the Jade Sea there, which could have melted, which is some suggestion that there'll be underwater stuff. You could have Kaineng Center, the city, which is now flooded, and we get a cool kind of Waterworld style thing, if you guys have seen that movie. So maybe these are things that are bobbing around in the dev's mind, and is why this is now high enough priority that they want to throw this balance out. Or it could just be that the balance team have decided, you know, let's go do some crazy stuff and broaden our scope with the kind of updates we do. Because again, they felt very timid with this kind of thing for a long time, and now they seem to be coming in droves with big changes. So, let's talk about the content of this balance patch itself, what actually might be coming there. So, first of all, I don't actually think, and maybe I'm going out on a limb here, maybe I'm going to alienate some of you guys here, I don't actually think that Guild Wars 2's underwater content is that bad. I really don't, especially not when you compare this game amongst its peers. A lot of MMOs just literally have you walking around on the floor. They don't have interesting, exciting environments. They don't have any content really there to do it at all, except just kill mobs that are picking daisies, and that's about it. Guild Wars 2's alright with it. You know, you got a wide variety of minis that even have different swimming animations. I was actually running, this is a total tangent, but I was actually running the Super Adventure Piranha the other day, only to realize that this thing actually swims when it's underwater, even though there's no underwater underwater content in the Super Adventure Box. You know, there are a lot of nice little details. We get special exclusive skills. Fire Elementalist on the staff, I think, is a shining beacon, on the trident, I should say, is a shining beacon of Guild Wars 2 strength as an underwater experience. You know, like, it doesn't make any sense that you'd have flames underwater, so they've given you all these special skills that are tailored to represent that now you're boiling water and you're creating steam and stuff like that. I think that's all brilliant. But it's not without its problems, and we all know that in general people avoid underwater content. I think that really there's 3 big reasons for that, and I want this balance patch that's coming up, and I would expect this balance patch coming up to hit all 3 of them. So let's just talk. First of all, not everything's available. And now you can see why I've actually loaded in on Rev here. Rev's a great example of this. Rev, the Heart of Thorns profession that was clearly rushed at the last moment, and they plugged in underwater stuff at the last moment too. When Rev was being designed, it was actually a class that didn't even get weapon swapping. And so, underwater, they only designed a single weapon. Then at the last moment, they gave it weapon swapping. But it still only has the 1 weapon available to it. If you're a Revenant, you get to use Spear. That's it. Unlike the other classes that get, like, I think, what is it? Elementalist and Engie only get 1 as well. So you might say that that's par for the course. But it's not great. It really feels like Rev should have 2 weapons. I'm actually getting destroyed here by a horde of Barracuda. Very scary. It's okay, we managed to rally here. Rev only getting the 1 weapon, I think, is a real shame. They did a strange thing with it as well, where essentially the auto is the Condi auto. The skill 2 is also an auto attack, which is your power 1. One's range, one's melee. I just don't really like this. I'd like to see this stuff split apart. When the post came out, they actually said they were going to change weapon skills and utilities. So I'd like to see Rev get another weapon. But also beyond that, for Legends, Rev is strapped to Herald. Can you use Herald underwater? Let's have a look. I actually can't remember. So the first elite specialization... No, you couldn't use Herald underwater. You got the F2. With Renegade, you get the F2, 3, and 4, which is good. You saw me use just a second ago. Citadel Bombardment is available underwater, so that's cool. Wow, look, it's actually like a targeted nuke there. I just put 10 burnout. What the hell? We'll get into that in a second. Okay, that was actually insane. Wow, I kind of want to play a Condi Rev underwater right now. So you get these, but the actual legends themselves are not available. Not only that, but also Jarlis of Core is not available. Ventari of Core is not available. You get 2 legends, that's it. That means there's 10 utilities, that's it. And, you know, that feels crap. It just doesn't feel very good. Rev feels super unfinished underwater, and this is one of the #1 things I'd like to see they improve. But it's not just for Rev. So many of the classes have got tons of utilities that aren't available. I think I saw on Reddit people were talking about necromancers, like their flesh golem elite just won't go underwater for some reason. It evaporates. They never gave it swimming animations, so it doesn't exist underwater. Sometimes they put a lot of good effort in. Like if you play an engineer and you put turrets underwater, you can still use them and they have special animations and they're floating and stuff. So I'd like to see more varieties of minions, gyros, stuff like that working underwater, and also maybe having special representations too. Let's change the models and the animation of the flesh golem if we can to look different underwater. I guess it depends how broad the balance team want to go with this underwater update, but that would be really cool if there's even more art and things that they can hook onto this stuff. Most classes have stuff that's locked off, and I think that that is one of the #1 reasons people avoid underwater, because you're just learning about your build above ground, you're having fun with your trait synergies above ground, you're having fun with your weapon skills above ground, and then whether you consciously notice it or not, I think that pushes people away from underwater, because it's like learning a whole new set of skills and you're not as invested in that style of stuff. I did have a solution for this once long ago that I did in a video. I suggested when training wheels first came in that they should add underwater training, so you'd get like another skill wheel. And basically you would have a 4th specialization, which would be the underwater specialization, and this unlocks various traits and selections while you're underwater. Because what I'm trying to drive at here is it's not just that skills are unavailable, it's that there's not much interesting buildcraft underwater either. And so by adding an underwater specialization, that might remedy that a little. That was a solution I had a long time ago, but hey, the devs may not have to go that far. But yeah, so that's the first thing. Another thing that I genuinely think is really poor about Underwater 2, you won't necessarily see with me just swimming around here, but is visual noise. If any of you have done Fractals, which is the one place you'll find underwater content at repeatable endgame at the moment, you'll know this. If you get 5 players together, the visual noise is ridiculous. I don't have too much to say here, but lots of the classically used underwater stuff looks mental, and it's almost impossible to see what's going on. If this balance patch does anything as far as PvE is concerned, I want to see that stuff get refined way, way down. Too many of these animations are way too big. Let's try and kill this shark, maybe we can see. I mean, it's so cluttered and just nuts that anything they do to address that in this upcoming patch, I think will be fantastic. So yeah, you've got visual noise. And third and finally, well, it's the balance itself. So this is what I was talking about, hinting at a second ago with the whole Citadel bombardment thing. The skills themselves are literally not balanced. There is not a better word for it. Some skills are terrible underwater. They're like in their 2012 launch state, have never been updated, and that could leave them either doing nothing or being ridiculously, unbelievably overpowered and bugged. I remember like an Elementalist skill was bugged to be infinite range for like multiple years until they finally patched it. Stuff like that is everywhere underwater, and so just a pass that goes through that would be fantastic. It's in a situation where, like, I believe Thief has a skill that you could just permanently evade. You're just like invulnerable all the time and constantly putting out pressure. Like, there needs to be genuine balance. Maybe if they do that, and there's a little bit of parity there, that unlocks a lot more interesting gameplay and things that the devs can hook into with that. So, yeah, those are the 3 major things that I'd really like to see, and that's what I'd expect from this patch, a variety of the different skills. You guys can maybe leave in the comments a particular skill you wish was available underwater or you think's just horrendously broken, either overpowered or underpowered. I'd love to see and share and discuss those things down there. Just before we end the video too, some final things also once good balance comes through, or once this pass comes in, that you might see the devs end up doing. Let's get up on this boat. I don't think I've ever been on this boat. Beyond like, oh, they might add a mount or something. I think we may have to go to the skimmer to get up here. Is how they can then hook that into the rest of the game. So if people start really enjoying underwater content and it's just better balanced, there's all kinds of things they could do. Maybe for funsies, in hot joins, and perhaps even unranked, I don't know, you can vote on maps now, we could get original Raid on the Capricorn back for PvP. I mean, I loved that map. It was a weird, interesting map. I'd love to go back there, even if it is just funsies. It doesn't have to be too competitive. There was another map, if you guys remember, when I did a data mine video, that was a pure underwater map on Conquest. Literally, it was all underwater, with like just a couple of icebergs bobbing around on the surface, but 3 capture points down there. We've seen that they got that new tech to have boats floating around, so you might have boats floating around in the Isna Isles, and that might interact with things a bit more. They could even do that, say, on the Conquest map. I think there's interesting stuff you could see there, but also other areas of PvE. We might find updates to the underwater Fractal coming soon, guys. Don't forget that they do revamps to the Fractals. Underwater hasn't had one for ages, so they could do that. They could add a challenge mode in there while they're at it, a harbinger for the underwater stuff. With better content there, they might be able to better design the bosses and give a little bit of a challenge. Then there's raids. I don't know about you guys, but I am at least a little bit interested in an underwater section in a raid. Not a serious encounter, but kind of a between encounters moment, a bit like running from the Spirit Wall in the first wing of the Forsaken Thicket, or maybe a little bit like the Doom, the Gwent statues in Wing 5 that just came out. Maybe a mini encounter to do with underwater stuff. I think that would be fantastic as well. So like they've got all these interesting places in the game that underwater could manifest as soon as balance is in a nice place. I suppose there's some other minor things, like maybe new items you get. The legendary Aqua Breather is yet to exist in the game, so we may find that at some point. Could even come through a Living World update. I don't know. It's all generally very exciting. It doesn't have to be all to do with an underwater expansion. It's pretty big news, and I'm quite thrilled by it. So there you go, guys. I wanted to keep you in the loop. Wanted to set your minds in the right place and give you some expectations as to what might come on May 8th. And yeah, I will be back for another video very shortly, dealing with another big update that seems to be coming on that same balance patch, and that is updates to the Dead Eye specialization. Lots of details have been released on that already. It will be a far less of a speculative video, and yeah, I hope to geek out with you all about that very soon. Another quick reminder of what I said at the start. There is a huge PvP tournament that I'm going to be hosting and casting. I'm desperate for everyone to get involved, people who don't understand PvP, new and old players alike. Please do check out the link in the description at the end of this video here. And thanks very much for watching, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you shortly. No, seriously, look, that link that's on screen right now. Click it. It's only a few minutes long, and you might win an eternity.